Good morning to you, children. It's Monday for you. I must get the days right. I think on a few of the videos I've got days wrong, but it is Monday. You're going to be doing this on Monday, so happy Monday to you all. And today we're going to start our new learning, which is about writing to persuade. So lots of you had a lovely go at writing some great letters, from persuading for dirt bikes and holidays to Disney, and all sorts of wonderful ideas about what you might like. So persuading in letters, and actually if there's anything you do need in life, it is to be able to write a decent letter to persuade people. Quite often you have to do that, whether you're complaining about something or you need somebody's help for something. So it's a really good skill to learn. I expect if you talk to your mums and dads, they'll say, oh yeah, we have to write letters about that and this, that, and they're often letters where you're trying to persuade people. So I just got this little image up to help us. Our little character here is actually shouting and bellowing in through that person's ear. But I guess what we need to do is persuade people without hurting their ears. So how can we do that? So first, let's have a look at the things that we'll be focused on. She says, come on, computer. You know you want to. Mrs. Marshall's having a lot of trouble with her computer. Oh, see, that should have been impatient. So here we go. This is what we're going to think about over the next few weeks. So it's, you can start your sentence in a variety of ways. So that's something that we've already been learning. We don't want to be boring, and we want to make sure we start in different ways. And we can use a range of rich and varied vocabulary. Again, that's something that we're always focused on, aren't we? We don't want to keep to those same boring words. So here comes something new. I can use superlatives and comparative words. Now, I hadn't really heard of those words before until I started teaching it. And but I do know what it means. It's the biggest, the greatest, the most amazing, the more exciting than utterly fantastic. So it's about using those words that really make everyone think whatever you're trying to persuade them is absolutely fabulous. Then it's using rhetorical questions, and a rhetorical question is a question you don't ask. We will be doing a little session on that, so don't worry. Sorry, it is a question you ask, but it's a question you don't answer. And we will do a little session on that, so don't worry if you're thinking, oh, I don't know what that means. Organising my writing into paragraphs is something we always do. Using conjunctions to expand our sentences, something we always do. And obviously, editing your writing to check for spellings and punctuation errors, such as capital letters, which we seem to have a strange affliction with capital letters and the inability to start a sentence with one. I'm sure you'll get over it. Perhaps I can get the government to develop a vaccine to help with that, capital letter issues. Right, so let's have a look at what we're doing today. So today we're going to start, as we always do, whenever we're learning something new, we always start by looking at examples of it. So we might start with a story, but this time obviously we're going to look at some letters, and we want to identify those key features in the text. So in the letters that we're going to look at, we're going to look at those, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and then you're going to have a go at doing it on your own. So this is our first letter. This is a letter that a teacher has written. In fact, I think it's a head teacher wanting to share with you. Oh no, actually it's written to the head teacher, trying to get them not to have to wear school uniforms. So he's trying to put some really good arguments together. So it says, Dear Mrs. Smith, having been a pupil at Spring Primary for the last 7 years, actually it's from a child, I feel it is now my duty to relate to you the feeling of your students towards wearing school uniforms. It has long been felt by myself and my peers that wearing school uniform is outdated, impractical notion which we no longer feel is necessary. By writing this letter, I hope to convince you that is the case, and begin negotiations on changing the rule. This rule even. My reason for not wearing uniforms are as follows. To begin with, a recent survey conducted by Schools Council identified an overwhelming majority, 79% of pupils, would prefer to wear their own clothes to school. As the head teacher, it is your duty to listen to and consider the opinions of your students and to negotiate with them. As the Schools Council are an elected body of students from all the classes in the school, it is important that you take heed of any information they discover about the wants and needs of the pupils. Secondly, myself and my peers feel more comfortable and at ease in our own clothes. This is important as The more comfortable we feel, the better we are able to concentrate with the work we are doing. If we are constantly fiddling with stiff collars and itchy trousers and uncomfortable shoes, this distracts us from the task in hand. Moreover, it distracts us from the learning. Therefore, wearing our own clothes would improve and lengthen our learning time and ultimately impact in improving our achievements in school. The school's position in the league table would rocket, and Ofsted would see the leaders and the teachers in the school are working hard and getting results. Finally, our parents would also benefit from the move, not wearing school uniform. Gone would be the excuses of not wearing school uniform as our parents did not get it washed in time. Wearing our own clothes would mean there'd be no lack of options. Parents would no longer have to have the mad Sunday rush of getting our uniforms washed and ironed in time for Monday. It would also reduce the amount of our parents having to pay towards clothing. Good quality school uniform that lasts does not come cheap. Indeed, the money could be saved and put towards school funds to buy books or stationery, resources for our home, so that we were able to effectively complete our homework. As you see, there are compelling arguments as to why the children at Spring Primary should be able to abandon their uniforms and in favour of more cost-effective, practical and achievement-boosting home clothes. Please consider some points I've raised in this letter carefully. My fellow students and I are looking forward to hearing your responses. Yours sincerely. So he's written this letter, and I wonder, what have you noticed that he's done? So just have a little look and think for a minute. Did you notice as I read it, I sort of thought, oh, I can see he's done that and I can see he's done that. So the first thing I've noticed, if you have a look here, is that he's organised his writing into paragraphs. So he hasn't put it all together. He's put it into paragraphs. And those paragraphs, each paragraph has a bit of information. So the first one is all about informing him of why he's writing the letter. I'm writing a letter because I think we should change what we're doing. The second one is all about the students and how they voted, and it's the school's council. The next paragraph helps and gives a reason and says that they're uncomfortable and they don't think it's good and it affects their learning. The next paragraph is about their parents and how it would help their parents in the cost. So he's organised his arguments and the different things he's got for his arguments into paragraphs. So that's the first thing I've noticed. So if we wrote a list of what he's used, or we've noticed they've used paragraphs to organise their information. Now let's have another look again and zoom in and think about what words might have noticed. Now you can see I've underlined these, and these mainly, there are further, there's more as you go through, but at the beginning of these paragraphs, he has used fronted adverbials. So you can see he's written to begin with, so that's telling us when, isn't it? And secondly, and finally, so he's using those as his points that he wants to make. And as you can see, so he's using fronted adverbials, something that we've talked about before. So to start his paragraphs, he hasn't started every sentence in the same way, has he? And so I'll put that onto the list, using fronted adverbials to start paragraphs. And you can see now I have added, some bold. I have to remember what I did here, but if you look carefully, I've bolded, so you've got this sentence up here, which means that the word stands out a bit more, that wearing a uniform is an outdated and impractical notion, which we no longer feel is necessary. So he's got the conjunction which, so he's using a conjunction to tell us more. Okay, adding to that sentence. And then he's got another one, if. He obviously put it at the beginning of this sentence, but they were saying we are constantly fiddling with stiff collars and itchy trousers and comfortable shoes. And this distracts us. I'm just wondering if the mouse is there. I'll use the mouse so you can see if there. So that is a conjunction, but obviously they've put it at the beginning of the sentence because you can swap them around as you've learnt before. And then we've got another one down here, so. Okay, so not every single sentence had a conjunction in, but he has been using them and writing those longer sentences with more details in. So I've added that to my list. Use conjunctions to add more details. So let's go back in and have another look, see what I noticed the next time I looked. Okay, now I have to remember, this time I used an italic, which is where it makes the letters slant and bend over. So you can see here, I've got the word duty, convince, important you take heed. There's duty again. Let's see if we can see any more in there. Compelling. It's quite hard for me to see, but I think I've got all the ones I've done. So those words, he's really chosen those words. If he's saying duty, convince, important you take heed, he's trying to use those words to make you listen or to make the person listen. And the choice of words that you use, if you said all the time, you have to listen, you have to do this. So he's trying to use words that mean you have to without saying it. So the whole point is duty. It's making you feel sort of guilty if you're told it's your duty to do that. And it's important to take heed. To take heed is to listen. You've got to do as we say. You've got to do something about it. You've got to take heed. So he's really thinking about those words. And we'll see later on in the week that the words that we choose can really help when it comes to using a persuasive argument. So I've put that on, a choice of words to convince you. You know, you're really going to have to think about those words, and there's little phrases that we can borrow from everybody and put in, and you might have seen them on some of the sheets that follow so that you do. Okay, so let's see what else I found. I tell you what, I've started with a different one. So you've actually got this one, so it should have been in your work pack. So you've listened to what I've kind of done, and I want you to pause the video in a minute and then have a little think yourself to notice and to see, is there anything else that jumps out at you? Has he used paragraphs? I think you'll see he's done that, but there's something in here that he's used quite a lot that you might notice. So have a little read through of this one on your own. And don't forget, you can use your pen like we do in class, and you underline bits and you notice bits and you and do that. And then I will share what I've noticed about this one too. So pause the video now. Now, hopefully you've unpaused your video because you're ready to share what you've noticed. So this letter is all about the writing about a zoo being opened and the person not being very happy about it. So if you have a little look, I have underlined these. Do animals really belong in small enclosures with little space to exercise? Do we really want our town's reputation to be ruined by a zoo that might not be the right home for animals? And then there's one down here. Look into your heart and ask yourself, do you want animals to suffer because they're trapped away in their natural habitat? Now, at the end of each of these sentences, there is a question mark because these are questions. The writer is asking a question, and this is a rhetorical question. It's not a question that you want to answer straight away. It's a question to make you think. And rhetorical questions are meant to do that. They're meant to make you think, and they're quite good to use in your writing because it makes the reader think, oh, yes, that is a good point. You're making me think. So we've got that. So I'm going to pop that on. You can see on my list here, I've got using rhetorical questions to make you think. And then if we go back to that, this letter is particularly good at being a little bit dramatic, and that's what I quite like. You can be quite cleverly dramatic. You can say some sentences that really make people think, but you're a little bit not just dramatic, but you're sort of exaggerated or using really emotive language to get people thinking with their hearts maybe. And so he's used things you can see in bold. The zoos are prisons. It's a world gone mad. I may have to move to Mars, because he's sort of trying to really show how he just thinks this is a ridiculous idea. And he's done that as well, actually, in his questions, his rhetorical questions. He's been really dramatic, hasn't he? Do animals really belong in small enclosures with little space? Do we want our town's reputation to be ruined? So he's really thought about that in his writing, L. Tiger has. And he has added that exaggeration and emotive language. So that's the last thing that I've put on it, being dramatic, using emotive and exaggerated language. Okay, so what we're going to do now, so this has been quite a long video and you've had to do lots of listening and you've done that brilliantly. There is one more sheet in there that you can see. So if you have time, you might not have time anymore, but if you do have time, you might look at this sheet here. And I just want you to see if you can pick out some of the things we've talked about, notice them, you can highlight them, colour them in, draw a line under them. And also something I haven't mentioned, but you know Mrs. Marshall does like one, you will notice in here that there are some sort of expanded noun phrases when they come to describe it. And also there might be some words in this one that you haven't heard before. So I have actually picked up one of the words, which is obtain, and put that in as our vocabulary this week. And so just have a little bit of time. There's no actual writing or recording. What you might want to do is in your book, you might want to write, and I'll leave it on because you've got that sheet at home to read from and draw on. But if I go back to this thing here, I might leave that on the screen for you to pause because it might help you find those things in the last bit you're doing. So really, you're just looking at that text, reading through that last bit and seeing if you can identify some of these things in that bit. But as I said, that's if you had time, because it's been quite a long session today, especially if you've been doing all that reading. So well done, everybody. And that means tomorrow we've got a good big picture of what things we might be putting in to our persuasive letters. And then tomorrow we'll start working on those little elements and practicing them before we put it all together again. Okay, well done, everybody.